the scene for three things. First of all, the innovation release, Checkmk 2.0, and when you can expect it to be released and the timeline and what we do on the way. Second, essentially, your one piece is user experience, framing a bit the discussion on user experience. Where are we? Why have we done what we've done before? Then Matthias leads you through the different parts and to get your feedback. And third, on some of the more internal features that we will also be introducing. So let me actually start with Checkmk 2.0. So it's actually the first time that we're breaking away from this 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 accounting, essentially because we've now done so many fundamental changes that we thought it worthy to say it's a 2.0. And if you think about it, we've essentially minimized some of the legacy aspects, such as the Python 3 migration, etc. We've worked a lot on all the APIs, on the REST API, obviously, on how we do check programming with the check API. We improved a lot of the performance of the system with a new system for the Enterprise Edition, the Checkmk Microcore, which at least in our internal tests, for example, requires then only 25% of memory footprint. So we're keen to see how that is in different installation sizes. We've integrated NTOP as a tool for network flow monitoring. So again, another big major feature piece there. And then obviously we worked a lot on UX and many, many other topics. So there are so many things that you can all see in the different release notes that are upcoming that we think it's worthy to do a 2.0. Now that also means that the release takes a bit longer than it usually takes. Usually we were sort of in a 12-month cycle, going a bit down with 3-month feature releases. And because we've done so many changes, we really need to test this thoroughly now. And we actually have a full-time test team, which is a part of our consulting team doing nothing else but testing to make sure, what we deliver is high quality, but we can only test so many environments. We can test our own environments, some test environments, and actually some real client environments where we're allowed to test. But we really need your help in testing. And that's why A, it will take a bit longer to release, and B, that's why we did an innovation release for the first time again, where we are still basically building on features, but we want to get it out so that you start testing. And we're actually getting a lot of positive feedback already, very constructive feedback on bugs that we have, on things they are finding, which is super helpful for us. So that's the main reason for the innovation release. The next one coming up is the beta release. The beta release is essentially the release where we say all major features are finished. And the one thing which we're still working on is part of the UX features. So we're roughly planning the beta for in 2 weeks. And when we release it precisely depends a bit on how many of the UX topics, Matthias will talk about in a second, do we want to get into the start of the beta, and where do we think it's acceptable to release it in the beta. All other features by then basically that have major impact are in it. And so then the beta is basically essentially planned for the entire rest of November, December, and January. And at the moment, our mental picture is roughly end of January will be the 2.0 release. Essentially, again, driven by how much UX improvements do we want to get into them. That's a bit the scope. And so the biggest thing you can help us are 2 things. One is test a lot, and 2, provide us feedback. Feedback where you think we still need to make improvements in the time for the beta, especially on the UX, but obviously on all the other things, all the other changes as well. As I said, one of the major pieces essentially is the new user experience. And this has 3 different parts that you can think about. One is navigation. How do you move around? Where do you find where you are essentially? And in the innovation release that's out there, this is what you can really see as a big difference. It has fundamentally changed the way how we navigate it. The second piece of user experience is how do your major workflows look like? So how do you actually, add a host, activate changes, and so forth. And the third major piece is dashboarding. where so far we actually had a limited number of things that we had in our 1.6. Now, sorry. I'm sorry, my son is here as well. So there are essentially two ways to go about it. One is to say, start top down, first work on the navigation, and then we come to improving the workflows, the dashboarding, etc. And the second piece is to start a bit bottom up and say what actually the workflows that are a cause of everyday pain and what do we need to improve. Both ways are viable. When we started the endeavor, we did a lot of pain point workshops with, I think, many of you on the partner day, on the conference, etc. And if you could cluster it, the major clusters started on the navigation side. And that's why we actually also designed in the way we release it top down to say let's first fundamentally change how we do navigation, then do workflows and dashboarding. Parts of it will be part of the 2.0 and parts of it we will do subsequently. Now for the navigation piece, the key or overall, the key thing that we want to manage with the 2.0 is essentially balancing two different paths. One path is that if you are a new user, it's much easier for you to learn Checkmk. There's so much feature richness in there that as a beginner or a casual user, you probably do not need. So we want to make it easier for you to get on board. That's sort of a critical piece for us. And the second critical piece is that obviously we also improve it for the power users and don't make it worse. We don't want to leave it easy, we want to make it better. But because we need to balance these two sides, we opted for some approaches that Matthias will walk you through, such as, for example, splitting up rules in a way that, or reshuffling them, that actually will be unfamiliar to many of you, but that we think are easier to follow as a beginner. And on the other hand, provide powerful search functionality for you to go, get quicker as a power user to where you need to go. And there are other areas like a show more, show less concept to reduce the complexity for entry users and to provide it to you for the non-casual users. And so essentially, these are the two things we need to balance. And this is where I think in the end, your feedback will be super important to us. And there are several ways to get your feedback. A is we will actually either tonight or probably tomorrow send out a rather detailed survey that if you have the innovation release, if you looked at what Matthias has done, you can fill out, and where we hope to collect a lot of feedback as to what specifically doesn't work for you or where we can think we can make improvements. And we will also release it again when we release the beta for those who will only start with the beta and also during the beta phase. So UX is obviously so important that we will do several surveys on the way. The earlier you provide us feedback, the better it is because we can already build it in. Point. And then obviously it's important to test it real life. It's one thing to see Matthias presenting the things. It's another way to walk every day around and see how it works. Obviously, if you are accustomed to Checkmk, you need to get accustomed to the new ways of navigating around. But take a day to do so and then provide us your feedback. Maybe last thing, for those who are enterprise customers, we also have two internal features that will become relevant for you. One is essentially a support diagnostic where we try to improve the resolutions times by giving us the opportunity to collect more data directly for you for a problem. What you provide is very transparent. We actually don't get data from you. It's you have the option to send it to us. You can select what you send to us, etc. So part of that will be in the beta release. And we will then build it out over the 2.1. And essentially, the idea is, you give us a call, we find out the problem, submit us this data, and we'll be much, much faster in resolving the problem. The second part is a license audit. And the license audit looks like a bit like, oh, they are becoming more commercial, etc. But it actually has a very different purpose. So what we'll do, Well, let me start how it works at the moment. How do we work at Checkmk at the moment? We are 100% trust-based. So essentially, we ask you how many services you use. You tell us how many you use. We bill you based on that. This only has one disadvantage, that if you have several thousand customers, we actually need to interact with you in a dialogue by email with several thousand customers in a rather inefficient process. And the only way for us to change that is if we start to automate that. And we do a small step in that direction now. Essentially, the system will once per day write the number of services that you use. We introduce a lot of safeguards for you, such as, for example, that we average it over months and that we don't look at spikes, but on averages. But essentially, we'll ask you to submit this once per year to us to start automating the process on our side, to have less of an inefficient ping pong. So no need to be afraid we're becoming the super commercial company there. It's a way for us to become more efficient in process side. And you'll see that during the beta phase, we'll be introducing the beta phase. I think that's essentially everything I wanted to say around timeline of the release, framing of how we thought about UX, and some of these new, more internal features. And before I hand over to Matthias to walk us essentially in detail to the current status of the UX, I'm happy to answer any questions now. Perfect. If you have any, simply raise your hands or write in the chat, and then we'll handle them over the course. All that's well is good. Then Matthias, you want to take over and
yeah, sure. So first of all, I want to thank everyone here. I'm glad that so many joined in. It's almost 60 people, and of course, many of you I know from the conference, from consulting, from many years of using Checkmk, and it's really nice for me that you stay tuned to Checkmk, and also I am glad that so many new users are here. So I want now to
You lost your audio, Matthias.
We can't hear
you.
I
lost my audio. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, Faye, could you let me in for that I can share my screen? Otherwise, it's. I mean, I could describe what I see on my screen.
Yeah. Can you see share screen button now?
Okay, now it works fine. Let me see. I need this one. Okay, now you see the YouTube channel. I need to switch over to this guy here. Can you see a Checkmk system now?
Yes.
Main dashboard. Okay, so let's disable this for the while. Okay, what you see now is a Checkmk version very near to the innovation version. It's currently a daily snapshot of the master version, but it's really close enough. You might find some tiny details which have already changed in our development master on the way to the final Checkmk 2.0. So don't wonder if your innovation version is slightly different, but roughly it's the same. So the first thing that you might notice is this tiny little bar at the left side. We call it navigation bar after several internal renamings. So now it's the navigation bar, and this is because the reason of the task of this bar is navigation. So what we have done is, the sidebar on the right side currently, it's almost the same like in the current Checkmk version. And this sidebar has basically two tasks. The one is showing actual status data like a tactical overview, but it's also used for main navigation, for the entry into the setup, into the views, and so on. And because there's so many navigation points, so many menu entries, you always had to scroll up and down, close and open folders, and so on. So it was a bit inconvenient to work with the sidebar. So we decided to split these two functionalities, create a new bar for the navigation, which is the new navigation bar, and reduce the sidebar to displaying status data. So in the current version of Checkmk, you still find all the snap-ins you know for navigation. So if you add some snap-ins here, you still get access to the old Vato and View snap-ins. So if you have a sidebar with these snap-ins, they still work. I can show you here the add snap-in page is still the same. So if you are used to work, for example, with this shortcut bar, it's still available, the snap-in. There's a slightly change in the way it's displayed. There's also a new feature. Some of the snap-ins have this little button here. And you see there's still a bug, but I show you later what's the task of these buttons. So the really new thing is this navigation bar. The main entries are these three at the top. So these are called, we call them mega menus. It's a terminology from the web design. So the idea is that you have with one click, you have access to many entries in a hierarchy with two levels. So we have the topic host, and below the host, we have the entries. So it's almost the same as in the sidebar snap-in, which you know, but in the snap-in, you had some folding techniques because of the limited space in the sidebar. So here you have with one click complete access to all of the entries. Also, we have split up this a bit. The monitor is what you know as views snap-in. So it's not only status views, it's also something from inventory, BI, stuff like that. And customize is something that was hidden previously. If you know the old sidebar snap-in views, let me see if I can add it. The old view snap-in. Oh, scrolling seems to not to work here in this version, but at the bottom of the view snap-in, there was this edit button where you could edit the views. For example, you got to this page where you see we saw all of the different adaptive views or things like your own dashboard, stuff like that. So this has gone into an own menu, so it's nicely cleaned up here. And setup is the new word for Vato. It's also one thing that we work on terminology. So for a new user, the word Vato doesn't mean anything. So the word setup is much more self-explaining. So at some points we remove these Checkmk special words and simply use normal names for the things. So this is called setup. Customize is these things like views, and monitor. These are the three main entries. At the bottom, you see this little button, the sidebar button. It's simply switching on and off the sidebar. And you have the user menu where you can quickly change the sidebar position from right to left, for example. Also, you can select a dark or a light theme. In the light theme, there might still be some old problems where white text is rendered on white background, I've seen. So on the final version, of course, this will yet be a bit tuned. So I switch back to the dark theme for now. Also, you have access to these things like change in password, which is now separated from the rest of the user profile. And here is some global help, which is still under development. We have access to the manual and to different stuff. So this is the first major new thing is this navigation bar and the sidebar. By the way, the sidebar has some icons here on the top. These are simply quick links to what we believe the most prominent features of Checkmk. For example, you can get to the main dashboard. You can get to a Checkmk overview of your Checkmk sites. It's a special dashboard for Checkmk systems. The list of your problems, host and service problems, the host module in the setup. It's the same as setup hosts. And the user manual, which is an external link. So I need to go back. Let me see. So this is the new sidebar. it still might be the case that we change some of these icons for the final version, but now we think it should be a quite useful selection what we have programmed here. Okay, so what else has changed? Okay, the sidebar snap-ins, you can fold them as you are used to. One feature is new. It's this little button, which you can also see at the mega menus. And the idea is that in many situations, we have a complicated version and a simple version of things. If I press this, for example, I get this third column where I have a distinction between handled and unhandled problems. So if you're a new user and do not work with acknowledgements yet, there's no difference between handled and unhandled problems. So you might start with an easy version of this snap-in, and then you can simply switch it. This button will also be added here at these snap-ins, for example, to remove the more sophisticated entries, so you get more focused on the important things. Also in the menus, it's important if you start with a new version and are missing something, don't forget this button here. If you press it, some more menu items will appear. So the idea is that when you start with Checkmk, you are more focused on the things you probably need in your first couple of days or weeks with Checkmk. And this setting is persisted on a per user base. So if you switch it once, it will stick that way as long as you work with Checkmk. Have I missed something with the navigation bar?
Could you explain the icons per topic or per entry?
Okay. Icons per topic. You see, we have a setting where we have one icon per topic and the entries don't have any icons. So if you're used to the icons, as I am, for example, you can change this and edit profile and select main menu icons per entry. And now let me see, I have this zoom thing here. Okay, now let's save it. I explain more about the save button later, but now if I make a reload, then you see we have these nice new icons per entry. For some people that are used, if you want to find something fast, I personally think that these icons are helpful, but I mean, we had made a poll in the last conference. It was 50-50. The user poll whether icons per topic or icons per entry should be done. So we have made it configurable here. Another new feature is the search has changed a bit. You surely know the quick search in the sidebar. Let me see if I can. Somehow the scrolling here doesn't work, so I cannot. Let me see. If I can re-add it. The quick search, yeah. Let's see if it works. Let's put it here. Okay, so this is something you probably know from Checkmk, this quick search where I can search for some hosts. Let me see, we just have one host here, it's called Heute. Where you have an interactive search, which, by the way, doesn't work either as it should.
Being fixed.
But this quick search is replicated here in the monitor menu because it's basically a search within the domain of the monitoring of the operating. So the same search is here. And you see, I need to type at least 2 characters. And then I see we have found one host name, one host alias, service descriptions, where HE is a part of, or let's try this one, we get this. So it's basically the same as the current quick search, just in a new look and feel. But really new is the search and the setup. So now also the complete setup area is searchable. This includes the rule search, where I can search for certain configuration rules. And you can, I think, also search for setup modules like event console. Let me see. Business intelligence. There are many monitoring rules. So currently, I think we search in rule sets, we search in modules, and 1 or 2 other things we want in the Checkmk 2.1 to add further and further search possibilities here, so that you also can search in your configuration, for example, find contact groups by their alias names or descriptions or whatever. So this is really a very convenient solution for finding stuff. Maybe one word to also something that you might see if you look longer at this page. Then menu entries here are more than they used to be. The main reason is that we split up several modules. We split up in the old Checkmk, there's a module called host and service parameters, which is completely wrong. The naming is completely wrong when it comes to, when you look at it, because it does not only contain host and service parameters, but also settings like if you want to monitor VMware and you need to set up a special agent, it's also contained in that bag of rules. So we changed it in a way that it's more centered about tasks. So for example, if you want to monitor VMware Cloud and Container Services, you get a special menu entry. If you go there, it's basically a part of the rule sets that you know. So now the sorting is, the grouping is done not on a technical base that we put everything together, which is rules, but we make it more task-oriented. This is the reason why instead of one big entry for the rules, you get several entries. And the grouping is now done by host and services. So for example, you have monitoring rules here and here. Here, it's, of course, it's the host monitoring rules. So it's the settings that deal with the basic monitoring of hosts, for example, which check command should be used and so on. So at the first side, one module might be missing. So if you are used to search in all rules, you either can use this global search, or you still have this module, the rule search, which is basically an access to all rules. You see it's a layout problem that you cannot see the entry here, but you can still make this global rule search. Also, you have this, which was also in this global rule sets menu, the possibility to search for rule sets by the title, by the name, by the help, by everything else. So this is a bit hidden here in the general section. I think this is the main difference, that we did a couple of renamings to make things more clear. For example, this was called active checks, but nobody who hasn't used Nagios before knows what an active check is. So we chose another name, which these three names probably cover 99.9% of the applications of these rule sets here, namely to monitor HTTP services, TCP services, emails, and so on. So this is everything I want to show about the main navigation system. Have I forgotten something, Jan? Do you have something in mind?
No.
Okay, so this is
some of the questions that came up.
Okay, can you read all the questions from the chat, maybe?
Let me see which we have, which we can already answer. Will it be possible to configure the quick buttons like main system problem host manually? So
I knew that this question would come. So probably yes, but I don't think that's a feature of the Checkmk 2.0. So I mean, it's very, you don't need to be very imaginative to think of this feature. So probably sometime it will be configurable. But this is not a promise. It's, let's see.
We'll make it happen. Will it be possible to configure favorites in every menu? This is quite such info. Is there still live date in the available step-ins view? This is very slow in large environments.
Maybe, I mean, we collect these ideas, and the point is that I think we need to get some experience with this user interface, how people use it and which shortcuts really help here before defining such features. So I think it's good that we have some time for working with the innovation version and also with the Checkmk version 2 in order to learn where we can further improve this mechanism. And at the first step, keep it a bit simpler than it might be possible.
I think in general, you will be able to configure, monitor, etc. You configure the topics, you can configure the entries below those. And for the quick links or shortcuts, bookmarks, this is still a topic we need to work on.
Yeah, well, currently Checkmk offers at least 3 possibilities for user-defined navigation hierarchy. You can create bookmarks, you can create custom views, and there's a custom link snap-in which can be scripted. And neither of 3 can solve all applications. So probably we will come up with something new in Checkmk 2.1, where especially larger customers can create large navigation structures, also on a script-based, where we can say I have 500 site or locations, and in each location I have several list of links, but one of the link is just present if some condition is met or something. So these are typical requirements of large customers, and I think we need one solution for this custom navigation that it's flexible and easy at the same time, and this might be a reason for a 4th entry for this navigation bar, but this is just in the brainstorm phase currently.
Will become a topic after 2.0, basically.
Yes, yes.
And there's a question about the quick setup icons. So generally, is there an idea or scheme behind about color coding the different icons? So I think
yes,
exactly.
I mean, it's maybe not 100% perfect, but you see the hosts are bluish, the services are yellowish. This catalog of check plugins is still green. It's debatable whether it's the correct color, and the SAP rules is yellow.
Exactly, but I think in general, so these are things we will, make better. But in generally, there is this color scheme for host, for services, and for agents. All of those will be blue, yellow, and green. Yes. And in monitor, the things obviously get mixed up, because then you can combine aspects of a host, aspects of a service, and this is why this looks a bit multicolored. But the concept in generally is you have a color for host, for service, etc.
Yes, but especially here at the monitor menu, the multicolor is the place where the colors become helpful. Here everything in the host is blue, so the color doesn't discriminate something. Here in monitor, you can easily see host search and service search. It's blue and yellow. So I think the fact that it looks multicolored is the point where the colors come in handy. I mean, I like colorful things anyway, as you can see from my wallpaper behind me. So it's of course very subjective if you like colors or not, but I think colors is a very fast way to find something. It's psychologically, in my computer science study, I had psychology as a side subject, and there was the experiments that color things can be found very fast without scanning something. So if you are looking for something red, the eye can immediately find a red dot on a page. So that's really, colors can be helpful for finding things fast. So
thank you. That's why we have these 2 concepts. If you want lean design, you can add with the icons per topic, or green if you want quick visualization and a power user, then it helps you, and so you have this second choice.
Also, some of these icons, of course, reappear in other menus, as we will see later. So,
do you already have plans to redesign some underlying pages, especially service monitoring rules? There's a lot of text on the page.
Yeah, of course, of course. The problem is there's so many pages in Checkmk. So we started with the most prominent pages, and we had for many, many months weekly sessions with a designer, with several from the team. And we're discussing each page one after another. So in Checkmk version 2, we start with a couple of prominent pages and improving them. Later on, we will work us through all of the Checkmk pages. I cannot say how long this will take, but I think we will go through really all pages. At least this is our target.
Perfect. These are the questions so far. I think the others were comments. So maybe Faye, we can capture the comments and.
Okay, so I will dig into the second area where things have changed. And these are the actual pages, the actual content. So let's switch the right sidebar back to the right for a while, just because I'm used to it. So let's start with a monitoring page, for example, such a view. So the main difference you can see is this new bar. It's called the menu bar. Internally, we sometimes call in-page menu because it's a menu within a page, and these menus are always context sensitive. Not only the contents of the menus, but also which menus you have. So this removes all of these cluttered buttons into the menus. It also saves, which I think is very important, the vertical space, because currently nowadays every monitor is very width, but the height is very limited. And since we work with lists, it's very important that you spare height for the actual monitoring data. So these menus help with this. So for example, we have a commands menu where you find these monitoring commands, which were previously hidden behind this hammer icon. So you have these menus. You see, again, the icons, some of these are links to, let me see if it's something here. No, here is not. So we have, for example, commands you can do on the monitoring items. In the host menu, you can, everything is grouped that affect this host that you currently see. So we have other views, for example, the events of this host. Also, you see, which is new, this breadcrumb shows you where you are. And every page in Checkmk is located exactly in one position of a kind of large virtual navigation tree. So if I go up, it's the same as if I would click this entry in the breadcrumb. So I come back to, I call it the home page of the host, which is the list of its services. Also, you can jump out of the monitoring to the setup simply by selecting the entry. Some of these entries already existed in the current Checkmk in form of these buttons, which could be well 5 or 4 or 5 rows, and were very hard to find. The functionality of the view as such is mainly the same. This little guy here unfolds the so-called shortcuts. You see these icons in the menu bar are shortcuts for some of these things that are hidden here. So every of these 5 icons is somewhere also here. For example, this filter icon should be here. It's filter view, and this is just a shortcut. And you can unfold the shortcuts, and then you have large buttons. It's nice for beginners so that they get some guidance, which functions are important, but also it's sometimes easier to hit such a large button than a small icon.
I think as some of you, I saw the chain, obviously it doesn't make sense to have 3 shortcuts in the top row, which are the same. So we'll change that, even though we all love the hammers. But
you mean the icons? Yeah, it's just these command icons should be replaced by command-specific icons, I believe. For example, the schedule downtime icon, we have a downtime icon, so I think these will probably
that will still happen.
Yeah, okay. So also new is the filter dialog. These could be very, the filtering was very cluttered in the old Checkmk. And let me see, we still have a layout problem, so you cannot see probably the entry, this entry field, it doesn't have a border, but simply imagine that there is one here. Or we can change, we can look if the light theme is better. Let's check out the same page in the light theme. Now it's a bit better visible here, the entries. So these are the filters. So I can search, for example, for CPU. The nice thing is when I apply the filters, the dialog keeps open. So you can check out the filter. Also, it's very easy to add further filters. Let me see. It's another bug. The close button is at the top and not at the filter. So if you add a new filter, you should get okay. You should get a list of the available filters here. I hope someone has a list, and I think it's probably because I use the master and in the innovation version. I guess this bug is not present. But if I would add filter, I would get a nice list of all available filters, and not just a small drop-down box. So this is an important change for these views. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at another important module. It's the host management in Checkmk. Previously, it was named hosted folders, but it's all about hosts, and the folders are just an intermediate construct for helping managing hosts. So we renamed it to hosts to make it more clear. Let's switch back to the dark theme. Also here you can see the in-page, the menu. You have operations. Let's create a second host. Let's make a duplicate of this host for the while. So we have two. So we have, you see the menu is called hosts with an S because it's about possibly multiple hosts. So I can, for example, select these two hosts and then say I want edit attributes on these select hosts. So things that had been put in these buttons below and above the list have moved to the menu, which is nice because the menu is always at the top. It doesn't scroll away. It's always available. So this is the same as, you know, for example, this bulk edit is the same as it has been. One thing you have seen maybe that the save button is on the top. It's a bit hard to get used to it, but also here it's the nice thing that you needn't scroll down a very large dialog in order to find the buttons. So they're always on top. And these buttons are nothing else than shortcuts. So you see, we still have some minor problem with the icons here, but basically these buttons can be collapsed into icons. So let's go back to the hosts. Properties of host, main directory. Okay, so this is again the list of hosts. So we have this host menu, we have the folder menu, which groups all actions on the folder that I'm actually in, or for example, add a new folder. Let's try this. Let's make a folder called Linux. Save. This is still the current layout, but we have plans to change this as well so that the folder list is a bit more convenient than having these large icons here. Jan, do we know this will come to Checkmk 2, I hope, this layout of the, yes. Okay. It just didn't make it into the innovation version. Okay, then we have this help menu. This toggle in and help, you know, it was previously an icon here at the top, and also every page has or will become links to matching articles in the manual. So, for example, if you are editing a host, have a look at the help. You see here, for example, this is not yet created, these entries. We have to do it still. So it's just a couple of pages we have put these context-sensitive links here. For example, beginner's guide, how to create folders, and you can go here and directly jump to the manual where I get some explanation, which is much more deep than just the inline help. Also, it's available in German and in English. When you follow this link, you will probably get the English user manual, but you can simply change the language somewhere. Where's the language switch? By the way. Okay, I need to scroll up and then I can switch to German. Okay. So let's go back. Okay. Also, you get links to the video tutorials for those who don't know these videos. It's very funny because in every video I wear a different shirt. So check it out. Subscribe to our channel. And as soon as Checkmk 2 will be available, we will recreate the whole video series, make it new based on the new Checkmk and make more videos. So I really would appreciate if you check out our channel and subscribe to it so you don't miss a new episode. Some of the few options went here. For example, I can select to have the host tags shown, which is these things, which ugly breaks up everything in 2 lines. So I prefer to have it off most of the time. Also, some other stuff from the bottom of the page went here. For example, these show this page without navigation, which just selects this frame, is now here, much more easily available than this lost icon at the bottom of the page. So, okay, I need to switch this with the navigation. Okay, so this is the idea of the in-page menu. Sometimes you get a related entry where you can go, for example, this is a setup module, a top-level module where you manage your host tags. And as you can see here, sometimes there's, again, this little button where you can get more advanced features. This is maybe not a very good example because there's just one thing in addition, but let's check it out. For example, this, the host menu, we don't have it. I think this is not, we have not gone through all menus and selected which of the entries should always be visible and which just if you go to this button. Let me see if, let's check out, we have something here. I see it's rarely used currently, this feature. It's less and more feature. Let's go to the service configuration. No, this is what the wrong service configuration is. The box, okay, the box. Here we have, again, lots of actions which are a bit more obscure, which are hidden behind this button. This page is currently under development, so it will get a major update before the final Checkmk version 2. Yeah, and I think that's most of the new things. Jan, have I forgotten something important which you come in mind?
So no, there are some smaller details that, for example, in the setup menu, you can obviously see in the right where you need to activate changes. You can
it's always at the top right.
Exactly. You can now also see that in the monitor menu, if there is a change to be activated, there is a small symbol there. Not sure whether it's part of the master already, but so that every or always if there's something to be activated.
Yeah, it's still missing, but it's planned. It will come.
Good. Then let's take some questions. Jan Philip writes, are the URLs in 2.0 smaller compared to the old versions?
I don't think that we have worked on an URL compactification thing yet. So I know this is a feature request, but as far as I know, there's currently no difference.
It seems to me, if I look at the comments, to be a bigger topic.
We don't have forgotten it, but we need some, yeah, it's, I think, somewhere on our list.
Will there be webinars, tutorial clips to teach and introduce the new user interface and navigation for users? Focus on bases and new users.
Yes, we will. I can speak for the webinars, but I can speak for the videos because we will create new videos, but we will create maybe we make one video with an overview over the navigation in the next couple of weeks. But the real video series about the new version starts when it's really finished. Because we need the user interface really to be final, to create larger amounts of video stuff, because it's much work and it should be precise and up to date. So it doesn't make sense to start with this before every button, every single menu item is fixed.
But with the release of 2.0, you will have a video and you also have a handbook or user manual article, how to use the user experience.
Yes, of course. But then we start a video series with where all of the features of Checkmk are explained one by one, and this will probably take some time. Currently, we have released every 2 weeks one video, and I think something like this will be the same next year for the Checkmk 2.
Exactly, in English. Is it now possible to add DNS alias names to get all the names of a host? Some people know only one name of several names.
I'm not sure. What we have currently discussed is just user experience things, not functionality. What functionality is planned exactly for the host management, I'm not sure. If there's some ticket or something, I cannot say. Sorry.
So just reading through the list, if there's actually another question. Can you have all the menus expanded from the start? So I think that is show more by default.
So if you don't like this less and more feature, you can configure how to proceed. So there's these entries. So if you set up Checkmk new, if you are a complete new user, then it defaults to less for all menus. If you make an update from existing Checkmk version, it defaults to show more, so that nothing is hidden that you are used to have. And if you don't like this whole show more, show less feature at all, then you can simply disable it. It's an option for the user, and then it's completely gone. After reload, which I probably need here, you won't see any more of these icons here at any place. So it's a kind of expert mode, but we decided not to make a global expert mode. You know, some of you might know the Fritzbox, which is very popular in Germany for internet access, and they have a global expert mode. It's the same idea, but there's just one switch globally for everything. And as soon as you need one little feature from the expert mode, you need to switch to expert mode, and then everything gets crowded with millions of new features. So we decided to make it on a menu and per page base. But here's the way where you can completely switch it off.
How much will be pre-configurable for users? Asked Christian.
Pre-configurable. I'm not sure if I understand.
Please read 6 lines below.
6 lines below.
About 6 lines.
Pre-configuration. Define which buttons will be visible for groups of users like helpdesk admins, guests.
Here it's very important that you don't mix up permissions and visibility. So with the less and more buttons, we just made something about visibility and convenience. It's nothing about permissions. Even if you have a menu switch to less, the same item might be available in some in-page menu as a context. So this is not the point where you select the availability of functions based on groups. You make this, of course, as always, in the user management in the roles and permissions. And the roles and it's a very old feature, it's nothing new. You can define roles as you like, and then for each role you can very detailed select which functions should be available. And of course, if a user don't has the permission for a certain setup module, he doesn't get the menu entry as well. So this is the point. For example, here you can, for every single setup menu, you can define to switch this off for a certain role, and then it appears from the menu. And then there's also no other way for the user, no link, no hidden link or something else where he or she can get access to this menu item. So this is the place where you do this.
Does it answer your question, Christian?
Yeah, thanks.
Any plans for an updated mobile view? The 2.0 version shows me an internal error on a dev server.
Our plans is to fix any bugs on the existing one, but there are no plans for creating a new mobile view because we need to keep all focus on the normal user interface. So we want to force all our resources onto this user experience for everyone, and the mobile interface is just on the priority list a bit more lower down. So of course we need to fix it that it works again, but it won't get any feature updates.
Simon asks, will the network scan of hosts folder be improved to maybe include some credentials, i.e. Windows to get host name and other information?
That's again a feature question. I'm not involved in. This just can answer someone from the development team if there are some current things in progress. I'm just concerned here about the general user interface and not of this. Sorry, I don't know.
So we'll check it out and let you know in the forum.
Yes, yes.
Will there be changes in the rules? For example, for some things we need 2 or more rules to get the task done. Example, process discovery, state, and count of processes. Log watch several rules to make it work. For new users, this is a real challenge, I think.
Yeah, that's currently not on our list. I know this process discovery is a bit more complicated, but it's a very old topic, and I was always the meaning that if you would put, Checkmk is always a distinction between what I monitor and how I should monitor it. The discovery rules just should select which things should be monitored and not decide with which parameters. So this is the reason why you still have 2 rules. I'm not really sure how to proceed. It's very complicated stuff anyway, because there's a third rule when you have manual process definitions, which basically combines the what and the how into one thing. So I don't think that there are currently discussions how to simplify that.
Maybe something to take away for the discussions after 2.0 and add it to the pain point list. So essentially, I mean, as we walk through the many different pages, it's exactly these kind of things that we need to understand. Where are things too complex? And if this is one, we'll look at it. What about a show most used besides less and more?
I mean, it's something that we have had actually in another place, these context buttons, where the 5 most used buttons were being displayed. Our experience from that is that since the most used things are always changing based on how you use things, that it was always very confusing, that sometimes a button was there and sometimes it was not there. So currently we don't have any plans, but maybe we can discuss this at some later time if we have more experience with the new interface.
Edit role user. Here is still Vato and not setup. It should not be setup.
Yes, it's still, here it should say setup, of course. So the word Vato will completely be removed from all places in Checkmk. Probably we need some grep or something to really find all places.
Will self-written check plugins for 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 still work? is there currently a 2.0 plugin that can serve as an example how they should look like?
The old plugins will work, of course, for some years from now, probably. And if you're interested in the new Check API, I'm not sure if it is, no, it's not here. Let me go to the user manual. In the user manual, let's go to the, it's not yet translated. There's an article which is still under development, which is available as a draft in German only currently. And I think it's linked here, yes. So this describes the new API for Check plugin development. It's not completely different from the old one, but it's more streamlined, and this article is not yet finished, and it's not yet, well, I'm sure we had an older version of this article is already in English, but it's just the introduction of this.
So I think, I mean, two changes. Yeah, one is essentially the Python 2, Python 3 migration, and the second is the new Check API. So I think the new plugin has to be in Python 3 because essentially we don't support 2 versions of Python. That would have been too complicated. But there is an automated mechanism to essentially translate the Check API. That doesn't always work, but works for most plugins.
Yes, but it's not a migration, it's just a translation. So the Check plugins are not rewritten into something new. It's just that the old plugins can still be loaded.
Exactly. Now, we obviously know that a lot of you have written the old plugins and are keen to see, will that work once it's out? And the way we will do it is that for the upcoming partner day with our Checkmk partners, we're actually developing a workshop and set of documents to explain these 2 things. What do you need to do, and what was our experience in the Python 2 to Python 3 migration, which was actually fairly simple. So we didn't have too many problems with it. And the second is the changes to the Check API. And with both of those, what would you need to look out for? And based on that, we'll write an article essentially that says what are some of the watch outs that you need to do, which is in addition to a full article on how does the new Check API look like that Matthias is writing and currently completing, that will then be translated into English. So these are essentially 2 complementary pieces. Yeah? This is the new Check API and all its depth. And this is migration experiences from our side and what we think you need to look out for. And we'll release that over the next, I think, 8 weeks probably.
I mean, you don't have to be afraid. It's more an evolution than a revolution. Mainly, the main things that have changed is how things are declared. The actual check, how it works, is still the same, that you get this agent section and the name of the item and so on. So the actual check functionality can be reused. Just the way how you declare the check to the system is a bit more cleaned up. Some anomalies have been removed. Some naming has been improved, so that we now have a base that can last a couple of years from now again.
Next question is, will all the documentation be updated for the 2.0 release to follow the style of the new style and pictures?
Yeah, it will be updated, but it will not be updated next January because it's too many. The printed manual has currently over 1,100 pages. So in the introductory articles and so on, we will update to the new screenshots. But until we have every article covered in the manual, it will take some time because we not only need to exchange the screenshots, but generally overhaul the article as a whole and modernize it and so on. So,
okay, but the migration plan is essentially we will fully update the entry documentation so that you can set up and walk through how do I set up an easy monitoring completely in the new phase. We'll add new articles on how does the new user experience work. all the new features, obviously, of the 2.0 will be described with the 2.0. And then for all the existing features, this is like Matthias described, will then be a step-by-step migration because it's too much. Yeah, but we will convert that
in a couple of
over
months. We have a new full-time writer for the manual, which I'm very glad. His name is Thomas. So we have more manpower in the manual team, but it's really a whole bunch of work to do with this manual.
Since this is a community call focusing on the new UI, will there be another one focusing on the new and improved or deprecated functionality? I think we can do that. I think, Faye, we can plan that for one of the next community calls to focus that one on exactly that.
We also have some questions on YouTube right now. So
okay.
Are there any plans to fix the confusion around setting a host and downtime from the services view of the host? People often confuse the services view of the host with the host view itself.
Let's see. Are there any plans to fix the confusion around setting a host in downtime from the services view? Let's check this out. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any actual plans, but let me see. If, for example, I'm at a host here, and if I do schedule downtimes on this, it's done on the services of the host. And there's this checkbox schedule downtime on the affected host instead of the services. This is interesting if you, for example, have a search for several services from several hosts. If you anyway just have one host, this checkbox is not necessary. You better go to the host itself, state of host, for example, here. And now if you schedule downtime, schedule it on the host. I mean, yeah, it's a bit confusing sometimes. Also, some people don't know that if you schedule downtime on a host, the downtime is inherited to the services automatically. So if the complete host is going down, there's no use in scheduling downtime on the services as well. In Nagios, you need this, but not in Checkmk.
Hey.
Maybe we put this on our list, this whole thing, but there are no changes planned for the Checkmk 2.0, as far as I know.
Yes. Hey, do you want to continue with YouTube?
Yeah, we have another question. Is there any plan enable a sync monitor for Windows with the same process as we have for Linux versus updating the checkmk.ini file?
Can I try to read it myself again? Can you read it again, the question?
Step one, I think.
Is there any plan enable a sync monitor for Windows with the same process as we have for Linux versus updating the checkmk.ini file?
A sync monitor for Windows. I'm not sure. I think we need to postpone this to the forum or to the feature discussion. Because I'm not sure what's going up on the new Windows agent. I'm just up to date with the user experience right now. This is
next phase.
And that's all we have for YouTube right now.
Okay.
Okay. I simply continue here. Let me see what do I have. I think someone asked whether there's a training. When will the training be available for reprogramming the checks? As I said, I think it's sort of step one is we'll do it for the partners. Step two is we put it into a document for everyone, and then we do one-on-one training. We have done the first one for partners, so I think it will become available then. And I think based on demand, we can do dedicated trainings or we do workshop style trainings like we planned for the conference, which we are now doing for the first time remote for the partner day as a setup.
Maybe it could be a topic for a community call sometime that we, in just 1 or 2 hours, for those who are very experienced in check programming, that we go through everything that has changed. I think 1 or 2 hours should be sufficient. for the more experienced Czech programmers, that they get a quick update what they should change. Might be also a way to offer from our side. Just in the same format as this one.
Exactly. I think I've scanned most of the questions. I didn't see other major questions. A lot of, I think, very helpful comments.
We have some questions that was put before the community call. So on our community call agenda, someone was asking any updates about the REST API documentation. Can we share something about that?
Yeah, there is one, but I do not know where.
So in the help, exactly.
I'm not sure where I'm coming. Okay, something went wrong. The new REST API has a built-in documentation system which exactly matches your Checkmk version. I've seen it already in our reviews, but I'm not sure how it's available here in the active GUI. Let me see. Don't ask me anything about this documentation.
Yeah, they're changing this at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's there are two different ways how to document it, and they are currently deciding, I think, which ones they want to use.
Yeah,
this is interactive. I can actually try out the API calls.
Yeah, it's still under progress. But of course, there will also be a manual written article for the user manual with some examples and getting started and so on. So this is more like a reference here. If you already know how this thing works in general, then it's a good reference for looking up actual calls. But in the manual, you get some getting started article, which is already under work, I think. Let me see. Let's go to the manual. I think there was already something new.
Yeah, I think it's not published yet.
It's published in German, but not in English.
There's the writer.
We start writing the articles in German and then translate it into English. It's easier for us. Erweitert wurde, Integration mit einem System.
Under 5.4.
Yeah, configuration via Checkmk REST API. Let's have a look here. Yeah, this is the German article. Okay, yes. This is a screenshot of the documentation system where you can select one API call, then you get the explanation for the parameters and so on. So a few examples. I think it will be very well documented at the end.
I think there seems to be an urgent question. Is there a discussion to maybe create a parameterizable dashboards? I need to create a lot of views, more than 500, that only differ by 1 or 2 variables. Is there going to be something like that? I heard rumors. I would like to create a mask once and use it several times.
If that parameter is a host name, then it's possible. So you can create dashboards that are host specific, where the name of the actual host is not hard-coded in the dashboard, but can come from a context, from some link, or when you are at a host, you can directly jump to the dashboard of that host. So if it's a host name, or I think it's a service description, should also be possible, but
host
not.
Group also works, I think.
Excuse me?
Host group also works, I think.
Yeah, every Checkmk object works, but not a free-form variable, for example, like a name of a database instance or something like that. That's currently not possible.
Check out the work I posted, Ingo, that describes it.
Good. Then I think there was a question on the conference. So I think the Checkmk conference, so there's basically one news, it will not be end of April. And that also there are 2 news. A, it will not be end of April. And that's simply, and B, it will be virtual. And it will be virtual. Why? We actually had planned, based on all of your feedback from the last conference, to have a hybrid event. A physical conference that we could limit to the number of users that we think is safe from a Corona perspective, and a parallel streaming to remote users, and then integrating those through the mechanisms we used in the last virtual conference. Now, if you look at the current corona rates and how they essentially exploded, end of April, this is when we had the physical slot at the event location, is actually super risky. Yeah? Could be good then, could be bad then. But if we have a huge hall and then there's no one sitting there and a hybrid conference, that would be very difficult. And so we essentially decided to switch it to virtual conference. Now with the virtual conference, this gives us actually room around planning for a date, because we're not fixed to when an event location will be available. Now, end of April, since we only released the 2.0, beginning of the year, is actually quite soon to talk a lot about new things, and giving you training on the 2.0 for 2 days didn't seem right. And so we actually, at the moment, we actually have a meeting tomorrow, deciding which is the best setup. Will it be a 2-day conference, 2 one-day conferences, etc.? That will be decided tomorrow, and then we'll post it probably in a week's or 2 weeks' time. One possible date is mid-June. That's because it's exactly in between every holiday of every state in Germany. But we can also think about, split setup at different days, but we'll keep you posted there. Good. Faye.
So maybe last question. So we have something from the agenda. Will the graphing engine be able to handle more than one vertical axis metric? Or will it be able to handle dotted or rather not linear metrics?
I don't think that this will be a feature of the Checkmk 2.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if I think about graphing, we have a graphing system, we have the dashboarding. Our key focus for the 2.0 is to improve the dashboarding. This is different elements. This is the element, what type of graphs can you actually do? At the moment, we can do tables and we can do time series graphs, but obviously there's also big metric numbers, gorges, etc. So we'll make simply more visualization options possible. And secondly, the current dashboarding engine is actually quite difficult to essentially configure new dashsets and what to design. So we're redesigning the configuration dialog. And thirdly, you need to understand a bit the graphing system to make it intuitive where you drag and drop things. And those are the 3 major things for the dashboarding. New dashsets, so new visualization types, make it easier to configure those dashsets and making it easier, more intuitive to drag and drop dashsets around. Good. Any more questions? Is there a possibility to use custom MK file names beside the normal ones? We have several created by script, which are huge and not possible to implement it manually or again via API. I think it's a question for you, Matthias.
Is it a question of Jan Philipp?
Yes.
I think there was some internal discussion about this topic, and I'm not really sure why it has been dropped at all. So maybe we can solve this within the scope of the support.
Yeah,
I think it shouldn't be.
Thank you. We haven't forgotten you, Jan Philipp. We'll get back to you on that point separately.
It also might be a very simple solution to simply concatenate all these files and write the result to the normal .mk file simply with the cat command. And because if you have 5 separate files, it's the same as if you would have one file where you put these 5 files one after each other. So maybe it's a very simple operation that you add to your script for simply putting all these files together into one file just by concatenating them with one command. I'm not into the details of your current setup, but I think it should be easily solvable somehow.
I think Dirk is asking which Checkmk files we're talking about.
It's the files that the setup module creates below etc checkmk conf.d. So the complete Checkmk configuration is written in text files, and these text files can be edited manually. And nowadays, it's very, very rare that you do this, but some customers have scripts that create these files.
Are the labels becoming more relevant? I import data from our assets into Checkmk. Labels are created, but in contrast to tags, I cannot use them to their full extent like tags.
I think we have added some missing features with the labels. For example, I think it was something in the rules. There was a Checkmk version where you couldn't use labels for conditions and rules.
You can use them at least on also notifications in a couple of other places, and more labels are discovered now.
So the answer is yes, they will become much more relevant in different settings. We auto-discover more labels. So for example, we try to discover the labels to define the operating system, whatever, for network devices, the vendor, etc. So you actually get much more auto-discover labels that you can then use in conditions, etc. And then secondly, we have added them to be able to be used in rules and also notification conditions, so that they become a powerful tool if you want, much like tags, but more flexible than tags. Perfect. Someone wanting more semantics on labels, I'll ask that to the team. Is there a central possibility to see the used and set labels? I think not all of them, only by host.
The used labels, I'm not sure.
I don't think so. No, at least you can see all the tags. That's a new thing in 2.0.
Yes. Good. Faye.
I think we're good. Sorry, I got disconnected.
Very good. So I think I'd like to thank you all for the call. I mean, this is exactly what I think we want and need, is this interaction, knowing what your questions are, your pain points, getting feedbacks on what you like and feedback on what you do not like or think is important. So I think for us, this is super helpful. And as we already discussed, we'll continue this dialogue next time, maybe on new functionality, as was highlighted. And I think super important, please help us test the new version to make sure we test it in all environments possible beforehand, and be so kind to help us with the surveys that we put out in several waves on the new UI, to know where we still need to tune things, where we need to make things easier, whatever, change font sizes, etc. Someone said, will there be a classic theme? No, there will no longer be a classic theme. So we need to make it work so that you really like it. And that's obviously our ambition for everyone. Help us do that by helping us with these surveys and providing us feedback as you go along. Thank you.
To everyone. And for those asking some more questions, we will try to answer them at some point. We will post on the forum, or maybe if it's a question that's about troubleshooting or something, so please post it on the forum, and yeah, let the community help. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Goodbye. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.